Hello and welcome to the CSAC's Columbia 101 webinar online chat. Thank you for joining us this evening. The webinar will be 1 hour long. We have two panelists, Chad Gifford and Simon Bird, both advising deans here at the CSA. They will be running through the Columbia 101 PowerPoint that was given during the summer advising sessions throughout the summer here in New York and all over the world, actually. The presentation will run about 20-30 minutes. Please feel free to submit chat-wise your questions anytime during the presentation and or after. In addition to myself, Josh Gaynor, I'm an advising dean, we also have Christy Barbicane as well as Dawn Hempel, also advising deans, here to answer your chat questions. After the chat is over, we will be publishing a recording of the discussion and the PowerPoint that will be posted onto our webpage. And then in a few days after that, we will also be publishing the chat log with all the questions and answers that were discussed today. The next C's broadcast is going to be on Wednesday, July 30th from 1 to 2 in the afternoon. So if you care to join us again or have some friends who would like to join us, please let them know. Okay, I'm now going to hand the broadcast over to Chad and Simon. All yours, guys.
Hi, folks. This is Simon and Chad.
And my name is Chad. And before we drop Josh Gaynor from the chat, Josh, are you? Do you think our slideshow is live for the attendees? There it goes.
That was me. Sorry, I had to click on a button.
All right. Well, great. Simon, take it away.
Sure. So what the goal for today is to go over a sort of few general things that are going to help you get you oriented before you arrive here on campus. One of the things we'll be talking about a bit is the transition in from high school life into college life here at Columbia. We'll talk a bit about the how we kind of function in terms of an advising resource for you students and talk about some of the structure and sort of what we do. And then we'll go through some of the basic requirements that you'll need to cover for your engineering degree. So we'll go over some of the first and second year things and then kind of segue into talking about your first semester here and planning for that and what you'll need to take and what some of your options are associated with that. And then we'll finish up talking about some of the more broadly, some of the advising resources, not only through us, your advising deans, but also sort of across campus, and some of the things that we can refer you to that will be helpful to get you going here on campus. And then, of course, we'll have plenty of time to take any questions you have that come out along from that. So with that, I'll hand over to Chad.
Well, I just might say that well, we might have some questions piled up at the end, but that shouldn't discourage you along the way to send out your questions to the chat window, because we have some of our colleagues, as Josh said, standing by to help answer some of the questions that may not make it up to Simon and me. So again, my name is Chad Gifford. I'm one of the advising deans here in the Center for Student Advising, and it's a pleasure to meet everybody virtually. We're hoping everybody can see our PowerPoint presentation as we talk. It looks like it's up on the screen now. So I'm going to start by just stating what is the obvious, which is your transition from high school to college is going to be a big jump. We've been at our jobs for a long time, and we've helped hundreds and hundreds and thousands of students make this transition. And so we can speak from experience when we say it will be a big step for you. There are a lot of differences between the high school and college, and common sense would tell you what most of those are. So we can go pretty quick through this, but I do want to just touch on a couple of things. You were given a lot of freedom in college to do things like set your calendar, set your course schedule, manage your time, manage your parents, manage your friendships. And because of all of that freedom, you really will get to make a lot of important decisions on your own. There's a lot of advising resources that we're going to talk about tonight to help you make those decisions, but ultimately you're in the driver's seat here. And so that's a lot of freedom, and the flip side of freedom is a lot of responsibility, and we take the responsibility part really quite serious at Columbia. So if you're in a situation where you think you need support or it looks like you might need support, it's your responsibility to come and get it, to ask for help, to seek out help. That's a big part of what we're going to talk about tonight. All of the, I sort of like to say, the embarrassment of riches of the resource network and the support network that's available for you to get help. I'm not going to go through all of these bullet points, but I will just touch on the one that says rest and reflection. And the big secret to doing well in college is to take care of yourself. And so you won't hear this a lot because you're becoming grown-ups and you're supposed to take care of yourself. But we get to say at least this once, that a key to doing well here at college is to take care of yourself. And that means getting the right amount of rest for your body. It means eating well. It means exercising if that's your thing. And it means taking time to reflect on things like how your friendships are going and how your studies are going. All of that is really important as you think about the transition from high school to college. So all of this will become easier to think about and talk about when you're starting the transition. And one of the resources you'll have as you come is each other, older students that have already done this, and then of course some of your advisors, which we'll define in the minutes to come. So let's proceed with the next slide, and Simon will take over.
So here at
No, you know what? I got that wrong. We're still on advising. So this is perfect because I just was talking about advising, and so I'll just keep going for a few more slides, and then Simon will take over. So we're very proud of our advising system at Columbia University. We're very proud of it. It's a unique advising system. We try very hard to make it a nearly perfect advising system. And as I said in the beginning, I'm an advising dean, as is Simon, and we both work at the Center for Student Advising. And you'll find our office. It's a centralized big office full of lots of advising deans here in Lerner Hall, which is where we are right now. It's the Student Center, and we're on the 4th floor, and our hope is that you'll come by often and for long periods of time to meet with your advising dean. At some point in August, you will be assigned an advising dean, and that person will reach out to you, and your relationship with that person will start. We're professional advisors. We're not affiliated with academic departments. We're not absolute pure experts in the different majors that you might select in the School of Engineering. In fact, there's a whole nother part of your advising life, which is your faculty advisors. You will be you'll have access to faculty advisors right away if you so choose to go to departments and seek them out. And then definitely once you declare your major, your specialization in your sophomore year, you will be assigned a faculty advisor. And we're different from faculty advisors. We work very closely with them, but the point here is that they're a big part of your life, as are we hope, in helping you navigate your education here at Columbia. We have a slide coming up to show you all of the network of advisors around you. So I'll skip that, and just to let's go to the next slide and see what we have. I think the next one might be it. We're on slide 4. Here it is. This is just a graphic representation of what I was talking about a minute ago, which is you can see the center 2 upper boxes are the Center for Student Advising, where we work, and then your faculty or department advisors. We're just a small part of your entire community of advisors. Depending on your interests and what questions you might have and the help that you need, you could be going in 100 different directions to get help. So we have a Center for Career Education. I'm not going to read them all, but you can see them all there. There might be a point when you're having a problem or you need some help figuring out a residential situation, a dorm life situation. We have a whole office of residential advisors. We have university chaplains. You see them all right there. The Center for Student Advising, where Simon and I work, is a really good first stop for you. So just keep that in mind. When you get to Columbia, if things get a little bit crazy, if you feel like you're a little bit lost, it always is a good idea to come to the Center for Student Advising or email your advisor from the Center for Student Advising, call them, reach out to them, because we're a great first stop. We may not have all of the questions, but we certainly have all the good referrals. And part of your responsibility will be to take a referral and act upon it. So keep this graphic in mind as you get ready to come to Columbia. Let's see what the next slide says. Again, a lot of this is common sense, so I can go pretty quickly through it. I won't read it to you, but here are some of your typical common questions and topics and issues that you might bring up in your relationship with your advisors at Columbia University. Again, for example, if you are interested in going to medical school, well, you could come talk to your academic advisor, your advising dean in the Center for Student Advising, about being a pre-med student or a pre-law student. Turns out we have specialized advisors, and we're going to refer you one step further to go talk to the specialists in these areas. But again, that's a perfectly good question for life after Columbia, to come see one of us, whether it's a career question or a possible further academic career that you're thinking about. All of these are good reasons to come talk to your advisor. I'd like to say one more thing here, or two more things really. I can do them quickly. I like to think of our services here at the Center for Student Advising as a fair weather advising system and a foul weather advising system. So what that means is if you feel like things are going very well for you in school and you're experiencing some success and you're happy as could be, go see your academic advisor and tell them that, and then start daydreaming and talking about all the opportunities and resources that you may not be thinking about, whether it's research opportunities or internship stuff or study abroad opportunities, fellowship opportunities. Those are all things that you can talk about with your academic advisor. We're also a bad weather advising system, so if things aren't going quite as planned, if you're struggling a little bit, or if you're homesick, or if things aren't working out in the residential communities, it's a good reason to go see your academic advisor. And the other thing I was going to say quickly is that you'll find that your advisor is pretty good at both ends of the spectrum when it comes to detail. So we're very good at helping you with some very specific questions, for example, about registration. So if you're having trouble getting into a class, or the class section you registered for is incorrect, we're very good at a technical level on your life at Columbia University. But also, we like to think we're quite good at talking about some of the big pictures. So the last bullet point here is future life plan. Come talk to us on a lazy Friday afternoon about what you want to do in the 4 years while you're at Columbia, and come talk to us about what you want to do after Columbia. Come talk to us about your summer plans, everything. We're good at sort of the general big questions of life, and we hope you'll come find us frequently to have those interesting conversations. And so that was slide 6, and I do think now Simon is next.
Absolutely. So just to shift gear a little bit, I'm sure you've probably taken a cursory look at least through sort of the requirements for the engineering degree here at Columbia, and I'm just going to go through just the basics of sort of what you need to complete over your 4 years. So each student has 8 semesters, fall and spring, to complete their engineering degrees, and we use a credit system, so you need 128 credits minimum to complete that degree. Those units sometimes are referred to as points or credits. That kind of term's interchangeable. They're essentially based on the number of contact hours that you have with each of your professors in a class, and that's normally the way that those credits are calculated, sort of course by course. For most of your engineers, you're going to find that reaching that minimum 128 is a natural recourse of you following your degree. Some degrees have sort of over 128 as their total requirement. Most of you are going to be sort of completing that within the requirements that you need to do for both your general requirements and your major requirements. So each student needs to take essentially 5 classes per semester, 16 to 17 credits as that works out in terms of the point system. You're depending on sort of what course load you want semester by semester. One of those advising roles that we have that Chad mentioned is basically to help you plan out each of your semester load and help you sort of ease yourself into the academic side of things here at Columbia. So planning that is sort of part of our role with you. Within those 128 credits, there are first year sophomore requirements, which I'll go over in a second, that you need to complete. There are non-technical requirements where you basically get a piece of the Columbia College core that you're required to do, and you have some electives you can fit in there as non-tech electives. And then you need to complete one of the engineering majors. So some of you may have a fairly strong idea about already where it is you want to go in terms of the major. Some of you may want to explore that a bit sort of in your first semester or two here. And there's ways of making sure you cover your bases in terms of the requirements for different majors. For this page next kind of shows the general first year and sophomore requirements. As you go from major to major, then they vary a bit depending on which kind of major track you're going to be on. For math requirements, everyone has to do the calculus sequence. There may be some applied math or other math requirement. Again, that varies by major. You'll need to do physics and chemistry sequence, at least 1 semester of chemistry and 2 semesters of physics, and then depending on which major you're on, you may need to go beyond that. So for example, if you're a chemical engineer, you'll need to do further on the chemistry sequence. If you're applied physics, electronic engineer, for example, you need to do more of the physics sequence. There's a lab requirement which again is major dependent. You'll either need to do physics or chemistry. You may have a choice depending on your major. And then all students do the next 3 courses. So the Art of Engineering is a broad sweeping introduction to the engineering discipline that all first years take. And then you're required to take the university writing class to give you those verbal skills within your first year. And then all students need to take Principles of Economics, which includes an introduction to both micro and macroeconomics. And then there's a computer science requirement, which again varies major to major. So in some majors you need to do the intro Java sequence, some majors require Python. If you're a computer engineer or computer scientist, for example, you need to do both of those. And then there's a professional level course which is required for some majors only, and this is really an introduction to that field. So for example, again, if you're an electrical engineer, then there's the intro to EE class that you take in that first year as a kind of introduction to that major. So go ahead, Chad. Absolutely. That's okay. So the non-tech requirement is made up of 2 of those pieces I've just mentioned, the writing course and economics. Then you have a choice of picking some of the Columbia core courses. So you have to take either the art or music humanities class, or one of those, and then you can do a humanities sequence. You can pick between either the Literary Humanities course or the Contemporary Civilization. Both of those are a 2-semester sequence course, or you can take 2 global core courses which give you some global perspective, and the benefit of doing those could be that you take those separately and they don't occur in a sequence. It gives you a bit more flexibility. And then you make up the rest of your 27-point non-tech requirement with electives. So this is basically where you can spread your academic wings a bit and explore topics within the non-tech arena. And there's a list of pre-approved courses that basically you can choose from that allow you to either try something completely new to you, or you can build on a language or build on another humanities or social science or something like that that kind of fit into that category. We can talk a little bit about AP credit, but the advanced placement, often engineers use that credit as part of their non-tech. There are some advanced placement you can also use from some of your general tech credit, depending on which courses and which department we're talking about. And we as advisors, we can work with you in orientation to help you sort of figure out where you sit in terms of your advanced placement credit. So when it comes to your first semester, it's as an engineer, majority of this is pretty much mapped out for you. You'll be taking calculus, you'll be taking a chemistry course and a physics course, and then you start either with the Art of Engineering or the University Writing course as a part of that core requirement. And that really gives you one other course to play around with as another elective. And it's up to you sort of where you want to get started with that. So for example, if you have sort of several interests within engineering and you're really not sure which field of engineering you maybe are interested in, you could, for example, take computer science. You could take a professional level course to explore that, to give you some exposure and to give you sort of some idea of whether that's for you or not. You could dip in and do the Principles of Economics to get that out of the way fairly early. You could take another non-tech elective if you want to try a language or something. Or you could take the chemistry lab if you know you're going to be in a field that requires that as part of your major requirements. So that's something to kind of start exploring at the front end, is to take a look at sort of where you think you may be in terms of a major, take a look at the requirements associated with that, and that may gear your choices in terms of what is that 5th course that you're going to be taking there in your first semester. I'll hand it to the chat.
Great. So now it's back to me, and I'm going to field the first question we have from the field, which is from Edward Yu. And Edward asks about that first semester. So it's really apropos of what Simon was just talking about, and exactly how many classes are required in that first semester. So one thing to keep in mind is that your incoming undergraduate first-year students in the School of Engineering. And you'll be living with and studying with and moving around with undergraduate students from 3 other schools. So we have 4 undergraduate institutions at Columbia. And right away, your roommates you'll be eating with and living with and going to school with all these different undergraduates. And each undergraduate school has different requirements. So you might meet a college student right away who says, oh, I only have 2 required classes. Well, as Simon just outlined, in your case, you have a whole, you have a more rigorous required curriculum in your first semester. So the truth is we're going to pre-assign you to only 1 class in your first semester. And that will either be university writing or the art of engineering. But we're going to expect you to sign up for a math or a calculus, a physics, and a chemistry. So there's 4 classes right away, as Simon was saying, which really leaves that one last class for you to pick from. And Simon went through what your options would be there. So I hope that answers Edward's question. As you see the slide in front of you, provides you with some of the resources you can start working with even over the summer to start imagining the different classes that you might take. We're not quite sure whether the links on the screen for you are live. So what I might ask is that our organizers post to the chat window a link to the directory of classes and the link to the SEAS bulletin. These 2 online resources are crucial for organizing your mind and organizing your life as you get ready to come to Columbia. The bulletin is just in general a super duper helpful resource for you in terms of finding all the requirements for the different major, all the general degree requirements that Simon already outlined for you in terms of the non-techs and the techs and all of that. It also has a lot of different policies for how you go about organizing your academic life. So keep this bookmark in your active file, the bulletin. It's a real good, useful roadmap for how you're going to organize the next 4 years of your life. Maybe if you're seeing it the way I'm seeing it, maybe we could link on a department and go see a degree retract. So we'll pick on any department link there on the left, departments. That's fine. Let's pick my favorite, industrial engineering and operations research, which happens to be my specialty. Every department is going to be organized this way. The first link under the department that Simon has right now is undergraduate degree track, and we'll click on that. And every department will have these grids. And this might be your first look at one, but I do recommend, as Simon was saying, to take a look at the different majors and start thinking about which one might be the right one for you. These tracks attempt to organize all of your requirements for your first, for all 4 of your years at Columbia. So this bulletin this is just one example, is a good example of how useful and helpful it is. So the other link that just popped up in your chat window is just to the directory of classes. And so back on the main slide, Simon's going to link here to the directory of classes. You have to be a little careful with this resource. This is the directory of classes, and it lists every class offered at Columbia University, or it should. On a good day, it certainly does. The trick, though, the problem with using this too aggressively is you'll find that it lists all of the schools and all of the topics across the university, a lot of which you aren't able to take. So we have the law school listed here. We have the School of Nursing listed here. And just because it's listed in the directory of classes doesn't mean that it's open to you. In any case, use the bulletin, look up the classes that you're required to take, and then you can go to the directory of classes to find out all the details you need to know about the class, when it meets, where it meets, the professor, whether it's open to you. Maybe we can click on one. We'll pick chemistry, I guess. Let's pick chemistry. So chemistry is there. He clicked on the fall 2014, and starting with Chemistry C 1403, this is our general chemistry lecture, section 1. He'll click on that, and it should say down at the bottom, this key box down near the bottom, it says open to. we promise you that you'll get very used to clicking around and looking at that. He's highlighted that, in fact, the School of Engineering, students in the School of Engineering are allowed to take this course. All right, perfect. So if we go back to that main slide, there's one more thing we want to introduce to you at this point in your careers, which is this idea of registering for classes. So we're going to look a little bit at some of the details. You're going to come for orientation at the end of August. You're going to arrive on a Sunday or a Monday, and you're going to have the entire week of orientation to wrap your brains around this idea. But that at the end of orientation, the Friday at the end of orientation, you're going to be asked to go into the Student Services Online, or SSOL we call it, and register for your classes. And again, we're going to expose you to some of this detail right now. During those 4 or 5 days of orientation, you're going to become experts at what this all means. But for the moment, we want you to look at a couple things. Every class that's offered at Columbia University has a course number. So right here, the example is Econ 1105. That's the principles of econ. Everybody in the School of Engineering is required to take it. That's the course number. The call number is a unique 5-digit code that he's circling right there that is a key number for registering for classes. So when you go into your SSOL during your registration time, the actual number you're going to enter is going to be the call number. And the reason that's important is because a course, for example, like Calculus 1 may have 8 or 9 sections at Columbia, 8 or 9 different times. It's the same material, essentially, but it's got different teachers, different days, and different times. And instead of registering for Calculus 1, which is the course number, you're going to be entering the call number because each of those 8 sections will have a different unique call number that the computer will recognize. So I said you do all of this on Friday. Starting on Friday, you're going to have your first registration appointment time in the SSOL registration system. The way Columbia works is you're assigned a registration appointment time. It's really a window of time. It might start at 9 in the morning and it might end at 9 at night. And you're allowed to go in during your registration window, your registration appointment time, and add and drop classes on your semester schedule. That's your first registration appointment time. For the next 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of the semester, the system actually gives you a registration appointment time every day. So you'll have plenty of time during the first 2 weeks of the semester to add classes and drop classes. And we call this the change of program period. At other schools, they call it shop and drop. And the beauty of that system is that during that first registration appointment time at the end of orientation on Friday, you may try to add all the classes that you want, but it may not be perfect. And that is certainly okay, because the rule of thumb here is not to panic on that Friday when you don't get the ideal class schedule. A lot of students get to Columbia, they imagine and figure out what they exactly want, and it doesn't quite work out. And Friday becomes a panic because they call home and they say, Mom and Dad, I didn't get the exact schedule I want. They come see their advisor. And some students engage in mild forms of panic. And our rule of thumb around here is to not panic, because you're going to have many more days during those first 2 weeks of school to keep tweaking, to keep adjusting your registration schedule. So that's what we suggest that you do. Over the summer, we ask you to look at the directory of classes to summarize the bulletin, to start imagining and sketching out what you think would be your perfect schedule. During orientation, you'll learn a lot more about your placement in things like math, chemistry, and physics, depending on your high school background. You'll get to Friday, you'll be asked to register. It may not be perfect. Stay in touch with your academic advisor, tell them what you're thinking, tell them what did or didn't work out. And then in the subsequent 2 weeks of the change of program period, you'll have plenty of opportunity to hopefully add or drop courses to get your schedule perfectly correct. Hopefully it'll be fixed within the first few days of classes. Just keep in mind that other students, the older students, the rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors, who've already had a chance to register, at the end of the last academic year will be in the system as well, adding and dropping classes, so that sometimes seats open up even in popular classes. So that's how we want you to think about fall schedule and registering for classes. Let's see what we have next.
So just to iterate, I think this is a phrase actually came from you, Dr. Gifford, which was embracing the uncertainty in that first couple of weeks, which applies to many things. But when you're planning your first semester, then having flexibility, having a plan B, a plan C, even a plan D, and you're realizing that, particularly with courses that are extremely popular, that there are always too few seats for the amount of students who want to take those, and you'll always have a chance to take a specific course even with a specific professor in a later semester. So things work out, and over that 2 weeks it will settle down. So just to kind of go over what will happen during your first week during new student orientation here on campus. One of the things that we have the pleasure of is seeing each and every one of you in that first week. So you'll meet with us just for a quick 15-minute first hello, just to see each other face to face, and just to hear your thoughts about what you're planning and your initial course planning strategy and whatever else you want to talk about to say hello. And then we can point you towards various different resources that you'll need in this first year, and these are things which are already in your academic planning guide, and you'll get plenty of information about the scheduling of sort of various information sessions and placement exams and other resources that you'll need in that first week. So the crucial ones that most engineers are interested in are the placement exams and info sessions for maths, so you'll know which level of calculus that you'll need to start in. Same applies for chemistry and physics. For those of you with a detailed music background, there's a music hum placement exam you can take as well. And if you want to continue on a language for your non-tech, then the language departments hold their placement exams in that first week as well. So keep those on your radar if you have interest in placing yourself at a certain level and you want to sort of evaluate where you're at. Then there's a full schedule of those placement exams in that first orientation week, and you can talk to faculty and other departmental staff about sort of what your needs are and where you're at. And so it's pretty easy to get a handle on sort of where you'll need to start off in that first week. Another big event that happens is the Academic Resources Fair in the first week, and this is really a great event for you to start looking around your departments, and we encourage you to stop and talk with as many faculty that are going to be attending that. And these are faculty that are very student-centric. They're there for a reason. They're impassioned about what they're doing research-wise and the teaching of students, and they'll give you an idea of if you have questions specifically about things such as where do I start with a certain major, where do your graduates go on once they graduate, what are some of the things I can get involved with in being part of departmental life. If you have interests in getting involved in research fairly early on, then these are the great people to talk to, because they're right there at the meat of their departments doing syncing students up with the resources they need. And quite a few departments in engineering have very healthy and active student organizations where you can be a part of from the get-go. So as an incoming first year, if you have an interest and you have interest in a certain discipline, a certain major, then the Academic Resources Fair is your first stop to hook yourself up, not only with faculty but also with other students that are in the same department. And then through us in student advising, if you have interest in being pre-med, then there are specific information sessions associated with that. If you're doing an engineering degree and you plan to be pre-med, then there are challenges associated obviously with making sure that you cover all of the bases in terms of the coursework you need. And the pre-med experts in here are great at getting you oriented in that first week. So you can start, even if you're not 100% sure you want to do that, you may want to stop by and just kind of hear sort of what strategies do I need in terms of what do I need to do when, how do things double count potentially with a major when it comes to physics, chemistry, biology, for example. So that's another schedule event that you want to take note of if you have interest in that. And then after orientation, we encourage you. That first meeting that we have with you face to face in the CSA is fairly brief, just by necessity that we have to see you all. But we encourage you to follow up with us as soon as possible, make a second appointment and come in maybe for half an hour or so to talk with us. So that's the kind of, just so that once the kind of craziness of that your student orientation dies down a little bit and you start finalizing your course schedule, it's great if we see you in that second and third week just to kind of find out how you're settling in and to give you some guidance in terms of you planning your academics from then on. You can also start to reach out. It's never too early to reach out to your faculty advisor if you know you have inklings of which department you see your major in, or you just want to talk to them about your options and maybe help you make that decision. Then the undergraduate advisors in each department are very willing to have a conversation with you as a first year, so you talk one-on-one with them in that first few weeks. There are other various resources that it's useful for you to be aware of sort of once you get started. So if you find yourself struggling in a particular topic, there are a range of different tutoring services available to you. We, through the CSA, have some for large intro courses. There's private tutoring. There's a student-run tutoring service as well that you can take advantage of. And again, we, as your advising deans, can help sort of figure out where you are if you are struggling with something from the front end and point you towards the relevant tutoring service. Then various departments have some great resources to help you either with individual courses or generally if you're struggling with material or you just want to kind of run some thinking past some fellow students. So the math, chemistry, stats and physics departments all have regular weekly help room sessions, and you can just drop by anytime that they're open, and there's either a undergraduate or graduate student on hand or collection of students on hand to help you with whatever specific questions you have about course-related material or anything that you're struggling with or anything you want a second brain just to take a look at. And likewise, Columbia has a great writing center that you should take advantage of. They will help you specifically with university writing, which is their course, but they can also be a resource for whatever writing assignment or whatever writing help you want. So they can work with you for working on drafts. They can give you specific language recommendations. They can sort of work on longer papers if you're thinking about taking a non-tech course that has a more strong writing element, and again, that's a resource that you can sort of take advantage of. So being aware of them and them as a resource is something I encourage you to think about. Then just thinking more sort of broadly, there's plenty of non-academic resources available to you as a Columbia undergraduate. So for example, we have a counseling service here in our building in Lerner where we're housed, the CPS. There's the academic success programs that's run through us, and they have various workshops throughout the semester. And these are often focused on things that students that are incoming have difficulty with. So Chad already mentioned the time management issue being one that a lot of students have to sort of address in their first semester or two, and there are workshops where you can work with a small group of peers, fellow students, and to work on sort of giving yourself some practice in developing your own best time management practices, and general study skills and various other sort of issues that first years typically are dealing with in the first couple of semesters. And then we at the CSA have a couple of electronic resources that you should be aware of, and I encourage you to bookmark the CSA blog. You can take a look at that now and see the kind of thing that's been posted in the spring and the summer. And Dean Gaynor sends out a weekly email that you should read in full every week because it's full of juicy information about what's going on here. It always has deadlines that you need to be aware of. So in terms of registration, things like the add drop deadline and the other sort of academic things that come up. And there's plenty of announcements about internships and other fellowships and things that basically you want to be aware of. So that's a kind of very useful electronic email that you'll get, every single student gets in their inbox that I encourage you to look for when you start. And then just lastly, just to talk a little bit about sort of how you can interact with us. We have an online appointment system, so whenever you want to schedule a 15 or 20, 30-minute appointment with your advising dean, you can do that through the online system. 4 days a week in the afternoons when school is in session, we also have walk-in hours, so if you have a quick question or something that's pressing, you can basically walk in during that period and everyone gets seen on a first come, first seen basis. And of course we're available by email and phone call, so a lot of our conversations are done remotely, so you don't have to physically be here, and most students kind of utilize all three of those. So they'll set up appointments when they want a longer meeting, we'll have email conversations about smaller issues, and phone calls that if it's not convenient to come in, and then you can utilize those walk-in hours whenever you see fit. In terms of who you're assigned to, then basically on your you get assigned an advising dean who is the liaison to the department of your first choice major that you declared when you applied. So that's kind of the first way you're shuffled amongst us. Once you declare your major and you're in the fall of your sophomore year, then if your advisor is not associated with that department, then you'll be shifted to an advisor it is. So basically you're moved around. So that ensures that you have an advising dean who is an expert in your major to give you specific advice associated with that. And one thing you can do as well, this is a two-way relationship, and obviously sometimes personalities are like oil and water, so you do have the option if you feel like you're not really gelling with your advisor, you can have a conversation with Dean Rainier, and she can switch you from one advisor to another if that's something that you want to consider. And I think we're at the end of our little presentation, so if there are any other questions from any of you, then go ahead, Chad.
Thank you, Simon. And you might check your window because apparently you were sent a question. I have one right here, which is from Luis Rivera, and he is asking about placement exams. So there are a number of placement exams during orientation, and you will see them in your schedule book when you check in for orientation. And not only are there these placement exams, there are information sessions that go along with these placement exams. So that's exactly why you're coming to orientation. Well, you're coming to orientation to move in and start to get to know New York City and start to make friends. But the primary goal is to get your brain and get your body ready for academics. So our recommendation is that you go to every single one of the information sessions, especially for those sciences and any other topic or discipline that you're interested in. So you, as an engineer, you have to go to the math information session. And based on what the first goal is to go and hear math faculty talk about math at Columbia University, how we teach it, what we think about it, how we organize the different calc sequences. And so it behooves you to really do that, to jump in and find out how we do math. And you'll be asked to sit for the exam depending on your training and your background in math. So put that on your calendar. Yes, everybody should go to the math information session. Everybody should go to the information sessions for all the hard sciences. And again, this is all spelled out in black and white in very clear terms in the schedule book that you'll get when you check in for orientation. So that was a good question from the field, and I don't know if you tracked down your next question.
I'm afraid I did not see any questions associated with me.
Great. Well, what we might do then is we might ask Josh Gaynor to chime back in and wrap us up, because I think we're near the end of this webinar. So it usually takes a minute for Josh to come back in, but we do hope this has been helpful.
Okay, thank you, Chad and Simon. So since there are no questions, I guess we will wrap this up. So my sign-off message to everyone is that this session has been recorded. What we're doing is transferring it to a YouTube file, and then we'll be posting it on the CSA webpage, where you can find the link and watch and listen to the entire presentation from Chad and Simon. Also, the chat log of all 2 or 3 questions will also be posted in a few days as well. So for those who care to hear this again or want to tell their friends about the next SEAS chat, the next one is going to be Wednesday, July 30th from 1 to 2 in the afternoon. That's 2 weeks from today. And for those who have Columbia College friends, please let them know that the second and final webinar is also on Wednesday, July 30th, but this one's from 6 to 7 p.m., and that's for the CC students. All right. Well, I hope everything all your questions were answered, and that the presentation was great, especially for those who were unable to attend the 101 sessions in the various locations throughout the summer. I hope you have a wonderful summer. We'll see you in the fall during NSOP. And Chad and Simon, if you have any final words, it's back to you.
No, just thanks for your attention, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you when you arrive on campus.
Travel safe. Thank you.